Hello, my name is Rebecca Esplin, and this is my presentation about the spiral of silence theory. Okay, what is the spiral of silence theory? Well, it's a theory that is about the tendency for people to remain silent when they feel their views are opposite of the majority views. And we're going to learn about why people do this and who it affects and what issues it's on and all sorts of things. So let's dive in. The first reason we're going to talk about is fear. Why are people quiet about their opinions? And obviously, they're afraid of what? Isolation and other negative consequences that will come from it. And I got these facts off of communicationtheory.com and from theory to practical application. And I will cite back to these a lot because they gave me a lot of good information. So this negative impacts that people have when their opinions are opposite are what people are afraid of. And so that isolation that everyone fears is what people think of. And I thought of my own experience I had with this was being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've met people and I've been like, oh, hi, yeah, and we'll have a good conversation, and then they'll say, oh, I hate the Mormons, or I hate that, and I'll be like, oh, well, actually, I am a Mormon. I'm actually a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and say that whole spiel, and they'll kind of just look at me, and then usually they end the conversation and leave. And so that's what I thought of. And I've also been told, like, when I'm applying for a job, don't put your religion on social media. And it's a good rule, but this is what I thought of, is that negative consequence for my own beliefs and opinions. And so, loss of job. That can be a consequence from having opposite opinions than your boss and other people. So, when does it end? Do people ever stop being afraid? Well, in this particular theory, they believe that the individual will feel afraid to express their opinions, and so they're going to express themselves less and less until they're never voicing their own opinions. And basically, they're silent. That's why it's called the spiral of silence, because they fall down the rabbit hole of quietness. So why? I was wondering, like, why are people afraid? Do they think, like, oh, I'm afraid of them, so I'm not going to tell them what I believe or what my opinion is? So, apparently, it's subconscious. According to Elizabeth Noel Newman from Theory to Practical Application, the fear of social isolation operates subconsciously. So people don't think about, like, oh, I'm not going to talk about this one thing because it's always different and everyone always gets mad at me and I don't like that. No, it's action that works subconsciously. And we're going to talk about this more in social isolation pressure. So this is happening every day, this pressure of isolation. And it's when someone is frowning or turns away and like shows negative body language and negative subconscious things that result in isolation pressure. Humans naturally want to be with other humans. And so when they think they're going to leave, they try to get them to remain and to stay. And this can happen to anyone about anything. And why does it happen? It's because we have this belief of what is accepted and what is. Obviously, in this gift from Parks and Rec, you can see him drinking out of a water fountain. Obviously wrong. And this is one that I'm definitely on board with most people, is you don't drink out of a water fountain like that. But that negative expression that he's receiving is that isolation pressure. And so if we see across the room someone talking to someone else and they are upset and they don't want to talk to them and they don't act erratic and they don't like yell or anything, but they turn away and they kind of, avoid eye contact, we think, oh, whatever they're talking about, that opinion is wrong. And so if we can overhear them, we're going to say, okay, don't talk to me. I don't want to hear it. And so we talked about how we get that public opinion. And so when we get that public opinion, if it matches our own, it's just going to build us up. And not for everyone, but usually there are people that will be very loud and very cocky, and that's why I got this rooster up here, because they're very loud and very cocky. So when the public opinion is supporting them, they're not afraid to shut people down about their own opinion and to tell them that they're wrong. And usually they will get supported. And that's why those who do have opposite opinions remain quiet, because they fear this, and people are very much against having that opinion. And so, once again, it doesn't matter really how big it is, as long as we believe it's the public opinion. And in this gift, you can see this penguin chasing a grown man and him falling over. Will that penguin actually hurt him? I mean, probably not. But that's kind of how it is sometimes, is it's this loud voice that we think everyone has, and we're afraid of being neglected and being left out. So what issues bring this on? What issues does this happen in? It's usually the controversial ones, and the ones that are close to the heart and can have experiences that are tender and that hurt. So issues like politics can be one. Issues on how a family should be raised, on how kids should act, where it's very much a personal thing, how it should be. But if you're on the opposite side, that's even more why you would remain quiet, because you don't want to share your personal experiences with people who will just shut you down and who won't talk to you about this issue, and will even make fun of you, and that's kind of what we think if we are silent. So it's always with those touchy issues. And the public opinion changes. As you can see from his expression, he goes from disgusted to interested, and it's always flowing, always different. And really, can we know what the public opinion is? Can we ask every single person what they think about every single thing? No. So it's just what we learned from watching people, and what people are in our lives, and what people we give credit to. Some people only interact with a small group. Like, if you're in a small town, like I was, I only talk to, at most, 50 different people a week. At very most. That's like seeing anyone. And so my public opinion can be very different from, say, in a big city's public opinion, where it might be more easier to find common ground. But it happens in those small conversations because it's personal issues. It's not just issues you talk about very often. And so my example may not be so deep, but I have 6 brothers, and they're all older than me. So for a long time, they were my public's opinion, and they didn't like animals inside. And so I was like, okay, animals can't be inside, but always I was like, but they're so cute, they need to be inside, and they should be treated like children, kind of. But I wouldn't ever say that, or else I would get teased mercilessly. Once I've grown up more and talked to more people, even in my little teeny town, I realized that most people don't think this way. Lots of people like to have their pets inside. But I didn't talk to anyone about it for a long time. And it was really this year, taking this class, that I realized what had happened. Is I wouldn't talk about pets with anyone, because I was so afraid of getting shamed or isolated. So taking this made me realize what had happened, and that I can talk about pets now, and that it's fine to have pets inside. And it's not a really big issue, but it's one that I could relate to, and it helped me understand this isolation theory more. And so in conclusion, the spiral of silence theory was proposed in 1974 by the political scientist Elizabeth Noel Newman, from Germany, and this is from masscommunicationtheory.com. But there are two major fail-safes in this. Two of them that just kind of knock it down. The first one is the internet, where people don't feel that isolating pressure usually, because there's just so many people you can find who thinks like you and be in that group. This also changes who your public opinion is, and like you can choose which people you listen to. Like for example, on the news, there's always conservative and liberal. Public news, there's no real in between. So depending on which one you listen to, you can base your opinions on that. And then the second one is the vocal minority. It's those people who don't care and just say whatever they want. And so I have this little gift of a photoshopped cat on President Trump because one of my sources I used, it was the theory in practice one. They use the example of people who think cats should be able to vote. And I was like, yeah, I've talked to those people. And they are few and far between, but they are very loud about their views. So that's all. These are my references, our textbook, of course, and then Oregon State, masscommunicationtheory.com, and Noel Newman, Scientific Works on the Spiral of Silence. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I've had a great semester.